Let's get the read from European Parliament member Daniel Hannan. Daniel, this looks like it isn't going to happen for Britain, or am I missing something?
It's too early to say, Neil. I'll tell you what, though, if there was any question in anyone's mind about whether there was still such a thing as a British establishment, the last 2 years has left no doubt. For every week since the vote, we've had a coalition of particularly civil servants, but also cartel businesses, politicians, members of the House of Lords, working to overturn the biggest vote in British history. But I wouldn't say it's all over yet. These are the same people who tried to prevent free trade in the 19th century. The same people, actually come to that, who tried to prevent self-government for the American colonies in the 18th century. They lost then, and I wouldn't put money on them winning this time.
What's to stop Britain? I know March 29th, it's going to happen one way or the other, right? The formal separation. But what's to stop Britain from saying, all right, these terms aren't really favorable. We don't like what you're doing, but we want out of this club. So we'll take the hits and we'll move on. We'll leave and be done with it. You're not helping yourself, Europe. You're only making things nastier, and you're making it more likely that we will leave.
Well, of course, that's what we should do. We should say, look, we're leaving. We're really happy to talk about the terms and conditions of outstanding payments and all this kind of stuff. But what we're not going to do is have an ongoing role for you guys to tell us what to do, right? I mean, when you leave your job, you don't expect your old boss to come around and say, by the way, go and get me my coffee from the Starbucks. And by the way, don't forget to bring me my dry cleaning on the way back. I mean, you've left, right? And had we taken a more robust position, we wouldn't be in this mess. I think now the only way in which we can get to an equitable deal is with a new Prime Minister in Britain, who the EU don't assume will sign whatever is put in front of him or her.
You know, I'm wondering, too, given the problems in France, given the budget troubles in Italy, given the fact that Germany is teetering, the ringleader of Europe, you have to wonder whether it's a club worth being in the first place.
Well, listen, a club that has to threaten you to try and stop you leaving is not a club at all. It's a protection racket. But I think you've put your finger on it with your usual charming Italian-American acuity there, Neil. It is precisely because of all these other problems that they need to find someone to get tough with. They need to try and find some kind of distraction. But in the end, what we're seeing in all of those cases is the basic lack of legitimacy of an unelected bureaucracy in Brussels that has completely lost touch with the people it purports to speak for.
All right, so if it looks like Theresa May shelved this vote for the reasons you outlined, it didn't look like the votes were there, is she toast? Is that a given?
You know, here's my rule of thumb. Any Brit who tells you that he knows what is going to happen next, not only don't listen to him, but don't listen to any subsequent thing he says on any other subject, because he's a fantasist or he's deluded. But you've got to say the problems that we have now reached are almost all traced back to the PM. The loss of the majority in the election, the way she triggered the process before she knew what she wanted to do with it, the agreement on the backstop, the agreement on the sequencing. I'm afraid the EU got her measure the first time they met. They sensed that she would end up signing whatever it was that was required of her. And until we get someone else, I think that problem will remain. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Prime Minister is now in her last days as Prime Minister.
Wow. Daniel, always good chatting, my friend. Thank you very much. Daniel Hannan.